All right. Well, welcome to another episode of The Common Theory, guys. I'm your host, Chris, with my other host, Dallas. We are here again to bring you guys Combo Heaven. I'm very excited to talk about this. This is going to be a very exciting kind of breakdown of different archetypes, different styles of combos that we have throughout the entire meta. So, Dallas?
Yeah, today we are talking about combos you might see if you go to a competitive Pauper Commander tournament. We're talking about some of the most popular combos and some of the strongest combos. Just combos that you would expect to see in that timed, super competitive environment.
Yes, that is kind of like what we are, right? We're going to be talking about this tournament scene that is starting to develop, which I'm very excited about because these timed events are going to be so crucial for more development, getting this to our FNMs, getting this to our, you know, Saturday morning events, right, at our local stores. So very pumped about this.
So, do you want to go ahead and pick one on our list and start us off?
Ooh, so all right, okay. I have a pretty good one. I'd like to start with the most generic, the easiest of the bunch, right? I would like to say it's our. So okay. Let's start with this actually. So Popper cPDH is a little different than other formats. So we have to continue to talk about our format. The comparison is not very good between others, right? So we do not have these just generic combos that just go in every deck, right? We have some that are a little this one, a little that one, this archetype specific, and that's it, right? But our one that we have that could kind of follow up in a little bit more decks than the others and is able to be more generic than others is the flicker combo. And to those who don't know the flicker combo, it's a very at the floor. It's a very simplistic piece. It's Ghostly Flicker, which is a 3-mana instant. You exile 2 target artifact, creatures, and/or lands you control, then return those to the battlefield under your control. Called Ghostly Flicker, right? Super simple. And your typical combo pieces are Archaeomancer with Peregrine Drake, or any other Archaeomancer effect. With Archaeomancer is our most generic one, the 4 mana, 1/2 human wizard, which has when he enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery from a graveyard to your hand. And Peregrine Drake, for those who don't know, which you will know soon if you start playing our format, is 5 mana, 2/3 flying Drake. When he enters the battlefield, untap 5 lands. Card's bonkers. What do you think of this as the generic good stuff package of our format puzzle? What do you think of this?
So, the Flicker combo in general is widely regarded as one of, if not the strongest combo in our format because of a few reasons. Number one, every card in the combo is blue, which means if you're in blue, you can play this, right? So it's pretty easily accessible. You don't have to be in a specific 2+ color combination. Yikes. Um, Additionally, basically every card in the Ghostly Flicker combo line is good on its own. We're playing a competitive format. We like to get values out of our creatures, so naturally we're playing a lot of enter the battlefield effect creatures in the first place. So the Flicker is valuable on its own. The Peregrine Drake, 5 mana, untap 5 lands. It's not amazing on its own, but it's not bad. It's essentially a 0 mana 2/3 flyer. And Archaeomancer is just value if you're casting it outside of the combo. And you get to play 4 Archaeomancer like creatures, so you just have so much value packed into this one combo line.
Yeah, it's. I will throw this out there as a little tidbit. the 0 mana 2/3 flyer, right? Like that used to be kind of just like a generic 2/3 flying beater. Now today, I will say the initiative and being so prevalent in the format as a whole makes him a little bit better than it used to be. Like so, Peregrine Drake only gets better with time, right? Like we're getting all these new effects and being able to fly overhead to like steal the initiative. I think has become very relevant today. I've won random weird games where I go to beat town with a Drake, right? It might not be the norm, but it is still completely relevant.
And it is worth noting we should probably talk about how this combo actually works. We mentioned the cards, but we didn't talk about how it
Of
actually
course.
works. So basically, what you need is Archaeomancer and a Peregrine Drake in play, and a Ghostly Flicker in hand. You're going to cast Ghostly Flicker, targeting both of those creatures. They will leave the battlefield and re-enter. Ghostly Flicker will go to your graveyard. The Archaeomancer ETB will return the Ghostly Flicker to your hand, and the Peregrine Drake will untap 5 lands. So whenever you're casting the Ghostly Flicker, you tap 5 lands. The Ghostly Flicker costs 3 mana, so you get to keep 2 mana and then untap those 5 lands. And this loop makes infinite mana. It also makes infinite creature enter the battlefield triggers or leave the battlefield triggers. So there's a lot of outlets that you can use to actually win off of this. And if you have any other creature that enters the battlefield and has an effect that can help you win the game, like drawing cards or 2 Archaeomancers, after you make infinite mana with that loop, you can do the same loop over again, targeting the Archaeomancer and the other creature that has a game-winning ETB.
Yeah, there's just so many effects, right, with the Peregrine Drake combo, right? There's so many ETBs of the format, right? I mean, you could pair this with essentially what every single color in the format, and you would have a payoff, right? I mean, from impact tremors to I mean, there's so many. We're not going to dive. Just a quick little caveat: we're not diving too deep in all of the specifics, right? Because there's so many, and we're just gonna give you guys like the broad spectrum of like this is the basis of the combos. This is kind of like what you would typically see if you went to the tournament and you're playing against a blue X deck, right? Or like one of these styles, and they're like, I'm a combo deck. So you'll have the base knowledge. Yes, sometimes it's going to be a bit more in depth, but I mean, if you guys like that, let us know. We could do a little bit more in depth per combo line, so you guys could actually we could go through, in and outs and all the crazy stuff. So
Yeah, for Flickr specifically, I do want to point out some of the places where you really want to be interacting with this combo, since this is probably the most relevant combo on the list typically.
Oh yeah.
Things to note with Flicker combo is that, one, they have to use their graveyard for this combo, right? Whenever they flicker their 2 creatures, the Ghostly Flicker goes to the graveyard, and then they have to return it with the Archaeomancer trigger. So one way you can deal with this is just by exiling the Ghostly Flicker from their graveyard.
Yeah, so base graveyard hate, right? I mean, there's so many cards in the format, and they just keep printing them for us, right? I mean, we even got the new Jack-O-Lantern, right? It's a 1 mana artifact that just taps 1, sack it, pop a singleton card in the graveyard, draw a card, right? That's such a simplistic card, but that could stop this combo as soon as you try to go for it, right?
Yeah. And then another big choke point for the deck, for the combo specifically, is Peregrine Drake itself. This is a card that we don't really have any redundancy for efficiently. We have Cloud of Fairies, but it's significantly harder to combo with. So if you're able to kill the Peregrine Drake in response to the Flicker being cast targeting it, you can remove that ability for them to actually net mana off the combo. You can counter the Peregrine Drake, if you're gonna kill or deal with any of the creatures during this combo, I would strongly recommend the Drake itself.
Yep, I would very much agree. But that's the crazy thing about this like format, right? They keep Wizards keeps giving us these great cards that continue to help us make some of these combos more redundant and better cards. So as of right now, we do not have more redundancy for Peregrine Drake itself. We do have other weird cards, but like I said, we're not diving too deep into that. But overall, yes, those are facts. So all right, Dallas, hit me with the one you'd like to talk about. I think you have one pretty dear to your heart, you know.
I've got a few on here that I am a big fan of, but we'll start with the one that I know you are not a fan of, so that we can start talking about this one.
I'm not a fan of. Oh no, you're trying to make me look bad already. We just
Yeah.
started. Oh great.
So
Okay,
next
here
up
we
on the
go.
list is Banishing Knack and Retraction Helix lines.
Oh,
Uh,
what is that? I don't even know
Banishing
what these
Knack
are.
is a
Oh,
1 blue for an instant, and it says until end of turn, target creature gains. Tap, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And Retraction Helix has the exact same text, mana cost, it's also an instant, so you've already got redundancy there. Great, you've got 2 copies of the exact same card, and it's a combo piece. So,
mm-hmm.
the goal with this loop is to infinitely cast a 0 mana card. So we use cards like Mirren Spy, which is 2 and a blue for a 1/3 flying drone that says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you can untap target creature. So if you
Oh,
have Mirren Spy in play and you cast Banishing Knack on it, you can tap it to return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and then let's say you return Tormod's Crypt. Great piece of Grave Hate, 0 mana artifact. You can tap and sacrifice it to exile target player's graveyard, but we don't care about that. All that we care about is that it's a 0 mana artifact. So,
mm,
you tap the Mirren Spy, return Tormod's Crypt to your hand, cast the Tormod's Crypt, Mirren Spy triggers, and you can untap the Mirren Spy. And this allows you to infinitely cast your Tormod's Crypt, your Ornithopter, another 0 mana artifact creature, anything of that sort.
I got a question for you. I got a question for you, Dallas. Yeah, this sounds lovely to me, but I think we're getting to the grounds where you've lost me. I haven't heard a way to do anything yet. I get to return my Ornithopter or my Tormod's Crypt forever.
That's the
Is this,
fun part. There are
okay, all
a
right.
bunch of outlets for this combo, and it all depends on what you're actually returning. So, for example,
Ah,
if you're returning an Ornithopter and recasting it, it's an artifact and it's a creature, which means any effect like Reckless Fireweaver, a creature that says whenever artifacts come into play under your control, it'll deal 1 damage to each opponent, or Impact Tremors, deals 1 damage to each opponent whenever a creature comes into play. Both of those can
mm,
function as outlets, and the absolute all-star for Banishing Knack decks is Nettle Drone. This
oh
is
my, oh
2
my.
and a red for an Eldrazi drone. It's devoid, it's colorless, it's a 3/1. It says tap, and Nettle Drone will deal 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, untap Nettle Drone. So this card is amazing for Banishing Knack because it is both the untapper for the creature that you enchant, or not enchant, but cast the Banishing Knack on, or it can be the outlet if you've got another creature that can untap. So this acts as both sides of the spectrum for Banishing Knack.
Hmm. Sounds like a lot of pieces. I just got to throw that out there. You're right, Dallas. This is that combo that I've seen very few decks be able to make this truly effective, right? Like it sounds easy on the surface, but every time I've seen this try to go off, I'm kind of like, are we doing this, guys? Like, how many cards are in your hand? It's like, I. This is one of the combos that's very difficult for me to get behind, especially when Ghostly Flicker is so much more simplistic, right? Like,
See,
if
that's
we
where
were
I
talking,
disagree. A lot,
oh,
actually.
really? Oh,
So,
okay.
how many cards does a Ghostly Flicker combo take?
Ooh, technically, if we're talking about payoffs and everything, I guess I have to say 3.
Takes 4 if you're getting a payoff. You need
Well,
you need the
yeah,
Drake, you
okay.
need the Archaeomancer, you need the Flicker, and you need something to do with that mana, right? 4 cards. What do you need for Banishing Knack? You need a Knack, an Untapper, an Enabler, and something to bounce. That's 4 cards. Same number of cards as Ghostly Flicker, plus there's more redundancy than there is with a Paragon Drake. So, it does have that going for it. However, it does struggle in the fact that you have to be able to tap the creature. So, Banishing Knack combos can struggle a bit more because they need to not have Summoning Sickness. And there's also some issues with colors. Usually you want to be in at least Izzet if you're playing this combo. Stuff like that.
Hmm. So it's not as generic then.
Yeah,
Got
it's
it. So you have to use the red payoff then, essentially, to an
pretty
extent,
much,
right?
yeah. There's
Yeah.
a couple
Okay.
payoffs in colorless with like Golem Foundry, which is an
Oh.
artifact that
Oh.
makes three
Oh.
threes. Uh, it gets charge counters whenever you cast artifacts, and then you can make an army of 3/3s. So
Okay.
technically, there's colorless payoffs, but for the most part, the best payoffs are going to be in red. So you're going to be
So
wanting to play Izzet typically.
yeah, we're in the tank. We're in the tank hitting cards like Golem Foundry. Like we're going far in the tank with that one. Um. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I guess I guess I'm allowed to at least say this. This is just not my cup of tea. I don't think it's horrible. I'll be brutally honest. It is not my cup of tea. It's a little bit more vulnerable too, right? Like I just can't go from no board state to having slamming Prayer Drake and winning the game,
Yep,
right?
that is
Like
true. It does take substantially more setup than Flicker combos do. Doesn't use the
yes.
graveyard, but takes more setup. There's some give and take
Yeah.
with all of these combos, obviously.
For sure, for sure. So let's not dig too deep in this one. We've kind of harped on this one for a moment, and I gotta say that because
A lot of pieces you gotta explain.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Let's jump to a little bit easier one, right? This is plain and simple, right? Let's go to the Midnight Guard President of God combo. This is I think one of the easiest combos in the entire format, and I pretty sure sees the absolute least amount of play. Like just I've actually to date never seen one or two of these pieces in play at the same time, even if it's on in the graveyard or other. Like it's very weird. I think this combo is amazing. Help me out here, Dallas. Do you think that it's because this combo is just it's in colors that it's very difficult. So before we keep going, let me explain what these cards are. We have Midnight Guard. It's a 2 colorless and white 2/3 human soldier. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, untap Midnight Guard, and you enchant it with an aura that is Presence of God. 2 colorless green. Enchant creature has tap, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token, which is very simple, right? Slam it on Midnight Guard, boom, infinite creatures. Too easy. That's it. The end.
so I have successfully assembled this combo in one game. Um, I was playing.
Did you win that game?
No, I actually did not. I made infinite 1/1s.
Oh,
and then my board got wiped. Uh,
That's so rough. It's
so
so rough. Ah,
yeah, to actually win with this combo, you do need another outlet, or you need to survive a whole turn cycle and not get your board wiped or anything like that. So the combo struggles a bit there. It's also a combo that you have to be in green white for. There's not many green white decks in the first place, so it doesn't see as much competitive play, but it is 2 cards, right? So
well,
it's still got competitive viability.
so let me throw this out there. I think this combo specifically is the best in Rocco, which I think I need to throw that out
Absolutely.
there
Yes.
because something excluding the flicker combo that we were talking about earlier, a lot of the combos, in fact, I think all of them that we will be talking about from this point on, will be the best in a specific archetype as a whole instead of in being able to splash throughout decks, which is a big deal about our format, right? We don't have the generic good stuff excluding the flicker. So most of these combos will be related to a deck. Like, so if you sit down and you're looking at Rocco, if you think the Midnight Guard combo is in there, the chances of it are very high, right? We're looking at like 75%. Like, it's on the deck builder, but I don't see why you wouldn't, right? Like, this is tutorable in every fashion, right? So,
And you're also in red, which means you get a lot of the outlets with impact tremors and stuff we've already talked about.
yep, exactly, exactly. And with the payoffs, and now this combo is looking better. But now we're not just 2 cards anymore. And I would like to throw out there, that's kind of like something that's a big deal about the format, right? We just said 2 cards that is very simplistic, and I asked you, hey, did you win after you made infinite creatures? You were like, no. So that just shows how powerful the format really is. So, I think that's kind of a big deal because I've never seen it assembled. I have never tried to do it. You did it, and it still failed, which is kind of I don't want to say an issue, but kind of an issue though, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, it's a combo that takes a full turn cycle to actually win you the game on its own, right? Unless you have a third piece. And 3 card combo is still pretty good for the format, but yeah, it's just a little obnoxious when you get the combo and then it doesn't win.
yeah, I think that has to say a lot about the color scheme too, right? It's green and white. It is much more difficult to assemble. We do lean upon our commanders quite a bit in this format, and this these 2 cards are very dear to my heart, but it is still incredibly difficult to assemble.
Yeah. But anyways, we can move on to our next combo. We're talking
Uh-oh.
about one that obviously I have played a little bit of at least. We're talking about Freed from the Real. This
I'm
is
sorry, you said Dargo? You said Dargo? What?
no, that's yours. You get to talk about that one.
Oh, I get to talk about that one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
So I'll talk about Freed from the Real. This is 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura. You enchant a creature. You can pay a blue to tap the enchanted creature, or you can pay a blue to untap the enchanted creature. So typically, if you see this card, especially if they're in Simic, they're going to be using this with a land untapping creature. For example, Ley Druid. This is a 3-mana one, so it's not great, but there's a plethora of land untapping creatures. This one is 3-mana, 1/1 human druid, tap, untap, target land. Very simple. And all you need is a land that taps for blue plus another mana. So, for example, untapping an island that's enchanted with Fertile Ground, which is a 2-mana aura enchantment that enchants a land, and whenever that land is tapped for mana, it makes an extra mana of any color. And there's a bunch of these enchantments. There's 4-mana ones that make it tap for 2 extra mana, so on and so forth. So basically, you have your land untapper that does not have summoning sickness. You cast Freed from the Real, targeting them. You tap a land for 2+ mana. You untap it with your land untapper, and you untap that creature with Freed from the Real using 1 blue mana. And then you make infinite mana. And usually you're going to have a way to sink that into an outlet, be it Gretchen or Weavers in the command zone, or a Capsize in hand, so on and so forth.
I was about to throw that out there at you. I was going to say, okay, this sounds all great and willy-nilly, but, like, what are my commanders, right? Like, this is very, very deck-specific, right? Like, this is one of those combos. This is not... I can't just put this in my green deck, right? I can't just put this in my blue deck. I have to be in Simic. I have to be doing the deed, right?
Yeah, you do pretty much have to be in Simic. There are some other Freed from the Real lines that I'll talk about later, but those are very deck specific as well. But yeah, typically you're going to see this in Simic decks, especially Leyweaver, Loreweaver, or Gretchen, where they have an infinite mana outlet in their command zone, so they just make infinite mana and win straight out of the command zone.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple on the surface, right? But, like, when we go to the tournament, right, we have to know that if I sit down across a Gretchen, this is what's going to be happening, right? Like, there may be other weird little knickknacks that they're also able to be doing, but like I said, we're not getting into all those. This is just the standard, right? The same with Weavers, and Weavers has been around.
Mainstream Simic line.
Yeah, exactly. Right? This is, the Joe Schmo, right? This is what we are expecting. This is the generic of the generic. Speaking of generic, Dargo. Dargo. I mean, I gotta jump over to Dargo, man. Like, so the combo with Dargo. All right, here we go, guys. If you don't know what Dargo is, please, I hope you do at this point. If you don't, 7 mana, 7/5 is an additional cast to blah 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 blah. Can't even read Dargo. He's too much text. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and/or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you sacrifice this turn. That's a lot of text on an uncommon. Jesus.
And trample.
And trample, sure. Let's just keep putting more stuff on it, right? How much can we write on this card? Alright, here's the combo. Turn it sideways, you did it, the end. Did I get that right, Dallas?
Something like that.
Is that the combo? That's not the combo.
That's not the combo today.
But it's so easy. It's how they intended Magic to operate. Come on, work with me here. Turning sideways, right? Just the easiest way to do it. But all right, let's get to the nitty gritty. So Dargo is a very weird card. I would honestly say it's actually a little bit more complicated. It takes way more setup. This is not a card that you're talking about doing Dargo by itself. Typically, well, in this format, Dargo has to be in the command zone, right? So you're going to have Dargo paired typically with blue or black. I don't see it doing it in any other way because you need your specific payoffs. And Dargo's specific payoffs are looping him indefinitely with one specific card. And then the payoffs are forever and a day. And the one specific card is also another red card. It's a 4 generic, 1 red slug snow creature. It's a 4/3, and his name is Thermopod. And it is very simple. Sacrifice a creature, add a red mana to your mana pool. So once you've developed the sacrifice fodder for Dargo to pay for his casting costs, every time it goes back to your command zone, you're able to sack Dargo itself, use the red mana that Thermopod creates, and loop Dargo's ETB forever. So you just loop Dargo over and over and over and over again. Doesn't matter that he's a million mana, because you have the sacrifice, and he sees his own sacrifice, and so on and so forth. But now we need the payoffs, right? Impact Tremors. Like, there is... We're going to Impact Tremors, most common, easy, simple. What do you think about this combo, Dallas? I love my Dargo, but I find this to be very difficult to make happen.
Yeah, it kind of has the same issue with tutoring Peregrine Drake, right? Like, there's no redundancy currency. Wow, there's no redundancy currently for the Thermopod, so you have to find exactly that card in red. Usually you have black or blue, so if you're in black, you can actually tutor for it. But if you're in blue, you can't really do that. And it is a 5 mana card that you're comboing with as well, which can make it difficult, and you have to set up at least 3 sacrifices beforehand, assuming you have only cast Dargo from the command zone once. You need 3 sacrifices previously that turn, and it's even higher if you've already had him die a couple times. So.
Yeah, this is not on the to-do list if you're going to a tournament, but if you sit across from a Dargo, do know that this is very, very able to happen. But also, too, Dargo does turn sideways quite often.
Yeah. And this is a combo that can happen turn 1, technically. So,
yeah.
it is still something to be aware of.
Yep, exactly. Dargo is the fastest combo we have in our format. By far the fastest. But
Alrighty.
on that note, I would like to move us to, since we're talking about one of my favorite pirates, I think we should talk about the next group of pirates and our deck of the week.
Too. Yes,
our deck of the week.
Improv transitions, everyone.
Yes. All right. Come on, my man. Hit me with this one, because this is your cup of tea.
Yeah,
Hit me with this.
I love this deck. I play my
curious.
own variant. Oh, you're curious. That's convenient, because today we're talking about Be Fine and his Malcolm Breach's Curiosity Control deck. So this is an Is It Pirate deck that is taking advantage mainly of the cards Ophidian Eye and Tandem Lookout. One of these is a creature, Tandem Lookout, 2 and a blue for a 2/1 human scout with Soul Bond. And whenever it is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has, when this creature deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. And Ophidian Eye is an aura enchantment for 2 and a blue with Flash, enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So, both of these cards are very powerful effects when paired with creatures that deal 1 damage to each opponent. And there's a bunch of these effects in red. For example, Firebrand Archer, 1 in a red, 2/1 human archer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Firebrand Archer deals 1 damage to each opponent. And this deck is on 7 cards that have a similar effect to this. So the main goal, put a curiosity effect on one of these pingers, and just draw cards and control the board until people either just die from damage, or you have Malcolm in the command zone, which means cards like Reckless Fireweaver and Ingenious Artillerist that deal damage to each opponent whenever artifacts come into play under your control. If you make them into pirates and you have Malcolm in play, it will go infinite, because you will make a treasure, and then your pirate dealt damage to an opponent, so you'll make more treasures, which will deal damage to your opponents, and loop infinitely. So there's a lot of very tight-knit synergy in this deck.
I mean, it sounds pretty cool. this is not a deck. This is not my cup of tea, but I have to throw this out there at you. This sounds like a control deck, and contrary to popular belief, control decks typically aren't viable throughout the format. But this sounds, honestly, from what you're saying, if I put one of these cards to net cards and deal damage, I am a hard control deck, right? I will be able to actually handle 3 opponents if I'm netting 3 cards per artifact, right? Like, this seems insane. And what is our partner? Breaches?
Yeah,
Like,
Breaches. Breaches is a 3 and a red pirate goblin. 3/3 with menace, which is very important actually. And he says whenever one or more pirates you control deals damage to your opponents, you get to exile the top card of that opponent's library, and you can play that card this turn and spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. So, if
sounds
you
like you just sounds like you said Ragavan.
yeah,
I'm misunderstanding what you said.
if you have Breaches and Malcolm both in play, every pirate you have becomes Ragavan on any damage trigger, not just combat. So that means that even if you aren't able to assemble an infinite combo with the Reckless Fireweaver, and if you're not able to find one of your Curiosity effects, you can still just go, okay, I'll play Breaches. I'll go ahead and equip one of my pingers with a Rune Stalactite, which is a equipment that actually makes a creature every creature type and gives it +1/+1. So you just equip that to a pinger, you cast Breaches, and then you just start going to town, casting stuff. You're casting your counter spells and removal spells, pinging each of your opponents, and then you get to flip the top card off of all of their decks and use their removal to just keep yourself going. If you have Breaches and Malcolm in play, it's kind of like you're playing Niv Mizzet, honestly, in cEDH. It's like, I cast a removal spell on your creature. My pinger makes 3 treasures, and I basically draw the top card off of everyone's deck. Oh, look, you had a draw spell or a removal spell that costs 3 or less mana. I'm going even or positive on treasures, while I get to keep controlling the board and digging for my combo piece.
I mean, you're making this deck sound pretty good.
I think this deck is amazing. Like, there
Well,
is so much card advantage, ramp, and utility packed into this deck. We're on 15 pieces of counter magic or protection, 17 pieces of removal. This is the true control deck. I love Curiosity Control so much, and I think this deck is amazing.
So, for those on Spotify listening to us, I have to throw this out there. You're missing out a little bit on YouTube because Dallas very rarely does one of these, and I know you can't see me, but I'm throwing my hand up and I'm pointing at the screen. And very rarely to this day, I've seen him do it maybe once, maybe twice, and right now he's slamming it out. I mean, we got all the hands flying in the air. This is removal. This is that. The excitement that I'm getting from him on this deck is it's amazing. And I am assuming this is why you have chosen this as the deck of the week.
Yeah, this is near and
it
dear
sounds
to my
great.
heart. Love this deck.
How about this one? Where, if I am a new player, where can I find this deck? Can you hit me with that? Like, I need to find this deck or this player that you're talking about. How do I do this?
Sure. So you can find Be Fine Bobby in the Tryhards, or not the Tryhard server anymore, the Common Connoisseurs server. He's also on the home base. You can find the list if you go to cPDH.guide and go to the Compendium tab. You can find the library, which has this list on it. So
Perfect,
you can
yeah.
contact him anywhere there. You can find him on Moxfield. Any of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll throw it in the notes below, you guys, so you guys can definitely see and check this deck out. Like I said, it's not my cup of tea from the beginning, but I have to say you sold me on this deck. It sounds really sweet. is very near and dear to my heart as well. And with your excitement, and I have to say, it makes me want to play the deck because very rarely do I ever get to see you like
I will
and
fight
yep.
so hard
I'm
for
about it. I am
curiosity
about it.
control. It's so
I
good.
am about it.
Everyone try it. Try it at home. Make your friends have so much fun watching you play their entire deck against them.
All right. So now let's move on to another weird one. I lied. It's not weird. I would like to move on to our boogeyman of the format. I think it's the easiest one to talk about. It is our boogeyman. It is Tatiova, Benthic Druid. Good old Tatiova. She has been here with our format from day one. Dallas, lead us off. Hit me with this one. Tried and true. If you go to a tournament, I could almost say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you will see this at the event.
Yeah, that's a very safe assumption to make. So, Tatiova is a commander who, whenever land comes into play under your control, you draw a card and gain a life. Very good value engine. Plays the flicker combos because you can flicker lands in that combo. But Tatiova has a very specific combo as well, using the land Mystic Sanctuary, which, if it comes into play when you have 3 or more other islands, it comes into play untapped, and if it does come into play untapped, you can put an instant or sorcery from your graveyard on top of your library. So, Tatiova gets a very special combo with this, using the card Tidal Bore. This is a 1 and a blue instant, but instead of paying that mana, you can return an island you control to its owner's hand instead of paying the mana cost. And Mystic Sanctuary just so happens to also be an island. And the text on this card is, tap or untap target creature. How do we go infinite with that? I know, it's so weird.
The Mercadian Mask cards are so busted. All of them are so good.
So, in Tatiova, you get to play creatures like Sakura Tribe Scout. It's a 1 green for a 1/1 Snake Shaman Scout, and it has tap. You may put a land card from your hand into play. So, with Tatiova in play, and Mystic Sanctuary and Tidal Bore, you can tap the Scout to put Mystic Sanctuary into play. Tatiova will gain a life and draw a card. Then you can return the Mystic Sanctuary to play to cast, or return Mystic Sanctuary to your hand to cast Tidal Bore, untapping the Scout. You tap the Scout, put Mystic Sanctuary into play, Tatiova and the Sanctuary trigger. You put Tatiova's trigger underneath of the Sanctuary. The Sanctuary targets the Tidal Bore, puts it back on top of the deck. Tatiova gains a life, draws a card. And then you can loop this and make infinite life. And there's also ways for Tatiova to end up netting cards off of this loop with some other cards, stuff like that.
So bada bing, bada boom, we hit it, we do it, we tap, we do. There is many redundant pieces of the Sakura Tribe Scout. I'm going to throw that out there. Yep. I'm not going to take the time. In fact, we are not going to take the time to go through every single one of these. Wizards has printed way too many of them at this point. Just like the Gretchen untapped creatures, there's so many. But, wow. That sounds complicated, but the one thing that you did say when we started was the flicker combo gets to be in here too. So we got good old generic, and when old generic fails, we have this weird old Mercadian Mask card that just accidentally wins the game.
We do. So what's our next combo we got lined up for us, Chris?
All right. This one, I will say, is near and dear to me. It doesn't show. It doesn't show. I'm gonna throw that out there. I love this combo. Pili Pala. I'm a Pili Pala fan. I drafted this card many, many, many years ago. And they recently printed a new card called Careful Cultivation. It's a 2 generic green aura, enchanted artifact or a creature. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it gets +1/+3 and has reach and has tap, add 2 green to your mana pool. It also has channel, but we're going to disregard that because it is not relevant to the combo. You're going to put this on Pili Pala. It's going to make 2 mana. You're going to use Pili Pala to untap itself.
I would explain what Pili Pala does.
Oh, you are right. Thank you. Thank you. Pili, I'm sorry. I started by saying...
Just assume everyone knows
I
what
drafted
Pili
this
Pala
card.
does.
Yes, I did. I made the fatal mistake. So Pili Pala. Old school colorless scarecrow. The first generation of our scarecrows. So it's 2 colorless, 1/1 artifact creature scarecrow. It is flying. It has 2 untap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Back in the day, that was the most ridiculous thing you ever saw in a Magic card. It was like, why am I untapping this card? Like, what is happening here? This was like so confusing to players back in my day. They were like, I've never had to pay mana to untap a creature. Like, this is absurd to me. But Pili Pala has a lot of cards it combos with these days. But in our format, we have this one. And this one is just, it's so good. You put this on Pili Pala, you get to tap it for the 2, and then use the 2 to untap it and make a mana. So you have infinite mana. Now, I will say, currently, Dallas, as I'm looking at this, I'm in mono green. This will never work in mono green. I'm going to revert back to good old Rocco. Rocco is sounding like it's just so good. It sounds like Rocco needs to see a lot of play. That's what I'm getting from
combos.
this. That's what I'm hearing, right? Like, wow, this deck needs to just like get played. What do you think? Help me out with this one.
I think Rocco's pretty good. But yeah, the nice thing about this combo is that it is mono green, which means any deck that has green can play this combo. It doesn't really have any redundancy, which is fairly common for some of these combos at least, which is unfortunate, but it's still 2 mana, or 2 cards make infinite mana, which can't be that bad.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's just once again, we're going through this on the tournament side of the spectrum. Without us being able to assemble this, without us being able to dig or do things with this, we have to make sure we get this in due time. And I think that's one thing that the Flicker combo really has over a lot of these other combos, right? Excluding, the Simic variants, because they also get to have that same redundancy. Excluding being deck specific, right?
Yeah. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on. I am going to talk about another Malcolm combo. That's right, I love Malcolm. You can't stop me. So...
Oh, no. Hey, look, a bird. It's over there.
Where? So, Malcolm, whenever 1 or more pirates deals damage to an opponent, he makes a treasure for each opponent. That's what Malcolm does. We've talked about him already. And we've talked about Ruined Stalactite already as well. It's the equipment that makes a creature into every creature type. So, we use a creature called Horseshoe Crab.
Oh, no. We're not talking about Urza Saga Horseshoe Crab. Are you trying to bring me back to high school? Oh no,
Yeah.
I just told everybody how old I was. Oh no. Oh no.
So this is 2 and a blue for a 1/3 crab that has pay a blue and untap horseshoe crab. So if you equip it with a Viridian Longbow, which is a 1 mana equipment that equips for 3, and it says equipped creature has tap, this creature deals 1 damage to any target. You can tap the crab that you have made into a pirate and deal 1 damage to a player. Malcolm will make a treasure. You can use that treasure to untap the horseshoe crab with its effect and infinitely ping the table. Notably, you can also do this without horseshoe crab. For example, if you just have Malcolm in play and equip him with a Viridian Longbow so he can ping people, and then cast Freed from the Reel, targeting Malcolm, you can basically turn any creature into a horseshoe crab, and as long as they're a pirate and they can ping somebody, Malcolm will make the treasure, you can untap the creature and just ping the table to death. So that is definitely a combo to be wary of in some Malcolm decks. Not every Malcolm deck is going to play it, because sometimes Freed from the Reel and Viridian Longbow aren't great cards for the decks, but I know some Malcolm Dargo variants like to play this combo. So it is still something to look out for.
Yep, definitely. I will say this, throwing this out there randomly, horseshoe crab, I believe, is one of the most accurate artist renditions of a card ever. I have picked up many horseshoe crabs. By the way, guys, I live out here in Miami, Florida. So I have seen many upon many of horseshoe crabs in my day. And I have picked them up and done one of these with them and set them back and let them keep going on with their day. And it is spot on. It is spot on. I have a softie for horseshoe crab. I used to play that so many times back in the day. But
well, you want to bring us home with our final combo, Gator? Sorry, Chris Gator.
I'm all the above, man. I'm all the above. Yeah, so this, I don't want to bring us home with this one. Like, this is...
Gotta talk about it.
I know. So, I'm not a fan of this one, guys. I'm not gonna beat around the bush, but this is the first day of class combo. This is a 2-mana red instant. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains haste until end turn. Most importantly, what I think is the most important part on this card is that it says learn. So in our format, we don't have sideboards and so on and so forth, but we do get to draw and discard, right? So it's a loop. So worst case scenario, right? The floor is draw and discard. That's the way I look at this card. Make me sound kind of sad about this card, but then we get to pair this with Putrid Goblin, or realistically, depends on our colors, but we need a creature with Persist. So there is other creatures with Persist in our format, but let's go with the easiest combo, 2 colors, red and black. Putrid Goblin is a 1 generic and 1 black, 2/2 zombie goblin. It's got Persist. Easy peasy. You need a sack outlet. Whatever your sack outlet is, you're going to have Putrid in play. That's your setup. You're going to sack it after first day of class. Bada bing, bada boom. -1/+1. They cancel each other out, and there we go. It sounds simple. Yeah. Hit me with it, Dallas. Hit me with it, because it's not that simple. It sounds so easy, though.
Yeah,
it sounds so easy.
The engine is 2 cards, but then you need a sack outlet and an actual outlet for the mana that the sack outlet is making, or for the ETB triggers, anything like that. So it's really a 4-card combo. But it still can get places. It is a Rakdos combo, and you're typically going to be playing sack outlets in Rakdos and pingers with impact trimmers or something like that. So typically you can still get there, and I like the combo because I think the pieces are pretty okay on their own, especially in a deck like Charforger or the new Garna that will be the outlet for you in the command zone. So it's a 3-card combo. Those are very nice for this kind of strategy. But yeah, it's got some redundancy, which is nice. If you're in green, you can use Ivy Lane Denizen instead of the first day of class, stuff like that. But
Yeah, it's some of these combos, I have to say, they sound easy on the surface, but in practice they're a little bit more difficult. We don't have, demonic tutor, we don't have vampiric tutor, so like these are a little bit more difficult to assemble without people knowing what we're doing, because we have the transmute cards that show the cards that we're putting into our hand. So there's not going to be hiding what we're doing when we're assembling things of this nature. So
yeah, with that, I think that covers everything we had to talk about today. Do you have any other closing remarks, Chris?
no, man. I just want to say, I think this is great. We're kind of throwing these 2 cents out there at you guys, trying to prep everyone for potential incoming tournaments that may be happening sooner than later. So
Yeah, and if you guys want more in depth on any of this stuff, make sure to let us know in the YouTube comments, on Twitter. You can find us. You can find us. You can find us on the Discord servers, Gator and Puzzle. Pretty easy to contact us, I think. So make sure to let us know. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave likes on the video, comment down below, all that good stuff. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.